acerbic, witty, scathing, ingenious, illustrious, funny. These are all words that can be used to describe George Carlin and his brand of stand-up comedy and humor. The fact is that he was in a business of making people laugh, and he did his job better than just about any other comedian that has ever lived. He was arguably the greatest comedian of our generation. That's an easy argument. A harder argument would be to argue that he wasn't the greatest comedian of our time. I mean, he was prolific beyond description. I can't name right now off the top of my head another comedian out there who has had a career as prolific as George Carlin. He just never stopped up until he died. He was performing, and he has dates scheduled. If you go on his website, he has dates scheduled throughout the rest of the year. And I first heard of his death. My girlfriend called me yesterday morning actually and said, "Did you hear George Carlin died?" And at first I was sad. I'm like, oh shit, I have to go to work for 13 hours today, and I get to wake up to find out that my favorite comedian has died. So I grabbed a couple CDs. I got in the car, I threw in Class Clown, and I'm listening to it, and I'm going, why am I upset? What do I have to be upset about? I mean, first of all, I didn't know him, so it's not like a personal loss to me. Any sadness that I have over this is strictly selfish. For the fact that I'm never going to get to see him in concert again. I'm never going to see a new HBO special or buy a new book that he's written. And why? It's just selfish. And second of all, the guy lived to be 71 years old. I mean, it's not like, you see some comedians who die young. Bill Hicks, Sam Kinison, Mitch Hedberg, just to name a few. They all died in their 30s. George Carlin has been doing stand-up for nearly 50 years. He's been doing stand-up longer than those three men were alive on this planet. You can't be sad that he died. He lived a long, full life. And believe me, he had a lot of fun living. So, I can't be sad. I can only celebrate. There's so much to celebrate. So many CDs, so many HBO specials, and the books that he's written. There's so much to celebrate. So there's no reason for anybody to be upset over this. Aside from family and friends. But the good thing about one thing I like about George Carlin is that he never slowed down with age. You see so many comedians who they get their start in stand-up and suddenly they get a movie deal or a television show, and then you never see them on stage again. I don't want to name any names. Eddie Murphy. No, I'm sorry, I don't mean to name any names. Eddie Murphy, Tim Allen, Steve Martin. So you see so many comedians who they get their start in stand-up, and then you suddenly realize they don't have a passion for this. They're just using it as a stepping stone. What they really want to do is get into movies, but they don't know how to go about it. So they figure they'll get a start in stand-up, and they'll work their way up, and then and you see it. You see it in so many comedians who, once they get that movie deal or that television show, they just quit stand-up altogether. George Carlin was never like that. Yeah, he got the television show, he got the movies, but he never stopped doing stand-up. And believe me, he could have retired from stand-up a long time ago. You know how much money these comedians make when they play Vegas, when they do these corporate gigs? He played Vegas a lot. There's a lot of money to be made in Vegas. He could have retired a long time ago. The fact that he's still in the game, was still in the game up until the time he died, that only proves that he wasn't in it for the money or or he wasn't in it to use it as a stepping stone to get to the next plateau. He was in it because he had a passion. He treated it like an art form, like it can be. You know, stand-up can be an art form, and he used it as an art form. That was his art. He was an artist. So he never slowed down with age. He had 3 HBO specials this decade. So he didn't use it as a stepping stone. And another thing I like is he never softened with age. You know, he never toned down once he got older. And quite the opposite, actually. You know, you could argue that he has gotten his social commentary and his views on religion have gotten more acerbic and more scathing the older he got. You know, you look back at a CD like Class Clown. I know it has the 7 dirty words routine, and that's kind of what he's going to be remembered for. That's his routine. That's the one that he's going to be remembered for. But other than that routine, and that routine isn't even all that bad. I mean, for the time, I guess it was bad. For the censors of that era, that was pretty daring. But when you look back on it, you know, that was a fun CD. It was a guy just being goofy, and he was just having fun. And if you look at something like something recently, like You're All Diseased. You know, you can just see his views had gotten more scathing on society. You know, he never toned down with age. He got more venomous. His attacks became much more venomous. So, yeah, I just wanted to share my thoughts on George Carlin, and I've been thinking about doing a series called My Favorite Comedians, which they'd be like documentary style, and each one would be on a profile of a different comedian. So I think I'm going to do that, and I'm going to start with George Carlin. So, you know, if you're interested, you know, subscribe, and I should have that up in a couple of weeks. But other than that, I just want to say, you know, George, thanks for the laughs, and they're not over yet. You know, we still got them CDs, we still got them HBO specials. You know, the laughs are going to continue. You know, you're going to make me laugh until the day I die. So thank you, George.